So about 21 days ago, I started an experiment of sorts, something that I'd never done before. I did a 21-day cleanse. And so I decided to do this cleanse because on social media, I just see all kinds of people saying, I'm done with 2020 and like all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand that. At the same time, my mindset is like, a number at the end of the year isn't going to change our circumstances. We have to change our circumstances ourselves. Just because the year says 2021 doesn't mean that it's going to be a better year than 2020. It could still be just as crazy, if not crazier. Who knows what the future holds? And I also see a lot of people, start goals on January 1st of the new year, right? And it makes sense. But at the same time, it's like we're a little bit halfway through the year. And I don't know about you, but my lifestyle in quarantine got really lazy and really unhealthy. And so I decided, this is going to be my new year. I'm just going to start working on some goals. And so I decided to try out a number of things. And in my list of things that I wanted to accomplish, I failed at every single one of them in the first week, didn't even try the second week or the third week, but the one that I stayed consistent with was the 21-day cleanse. And that's partially because there was a plan to it. It kind of was the catalyst for this whole trying out new things, trying to accomplish new goals. And yeah, so the whole experience was just really, really interesting. Shout out to my friends David and Laura, because without them, I would not have been able to do this or have the idea. They actually did this themselves at the beginning of the year and spoke highly of it. And so they helped me along the way with encouragement, with some helpful resources. And so again, I cannot emphasize that this wouldn't have been possible or accomplished without their help. Now, what is this cleanse exactly? Essentially, it's 3 weeks, and each week it progressively gets more limited towards fruits and vegetables till the third week you're only eating fruits and vegetables, essentially. And so even the first week, though, where I was able to eat some other things like some whole grain bread or some eggs, there was a lot of foods there that were not what I normally eat. And so it was super hard. And it's funny because each week I continued to think, oh my gosh, this is the hardest week. It can't get any harder than this. But each week it totally would. So let's just start with week one. Week one was super hard. You're totally shocking your body, eating in a way that you probably don't typically eat. And the other thing that was really hard was that a hurricane essentially hit Iowa. Maybe you've heard about this, maybe you haven't, but it put a lot of people without power. And I just realized how important power is in everyday living, in everyday life. And so I couldn't really cook a lot of things. And so that was really hard and really frustrating. And so just eating a lot of raw vegetables and stuff like that. But eventually the power came back on and I was able to start cooking again. During the whole time, even if I didn't stick to the meal plan, exactly and precisely, I did stay within that food group kind of thing. I didn't eat anything that wasn't already on the menus for that week. I might adjust things because I might not have time to make something, or maybe I didn't have these ingredients that I needed, or I just wouldn't want something to go to waste, so I would eat a larger portion than I was supposed to. And so again, I didn't stick to it to a T, but I think that the way that I did it, I think the goal was still accomplished. And so I did that week one, super hard. I started watching a ton of food videos on YouTube. I started making a bucket list of restaurants and foods that I wanted to eat and make after this whole thing. And so that's how week one went. Super hard, but really proud of myself for doing it and sticking with it, because especially without power, there were so many times where it's like, should I just quit and start this thing another week? And I decided no, like I'm gonna stick through it, and I'm super glad that I did, because I don't know if I quit then if I would be able to get the motivation again later on. And so week 1 in the books. Week 2, that was super hard because I'd started eating some new kinds of foods in week 1, and I was like, oh, like this isn't that bad. Week 2 took away everything that I liked from week 1, and so I needed a few days to process that, to come to peace, and eventually I did. And so week 2 started again trying new things, just figuring things out, but it was good. There was a point on that Wednesday where I think it's because I didn't eat for a long period of time in that day, and so I think I was just really weak, maybe dehydrated, and just kind of really felt like sick to my stomach. That's not because the cleanse is unhealthy. The cleanse is designed for you to like not starve yourself. It's just you eating whole foods, like nothing processed, and so it's just because of my own fault. But I did not feel super great that day. Had a really big headache, but I got some food in me, got some really good sleep, and I felt perfectly fine the next day. But I think that was a real big turning point for me, because in feeling sick, it's like, no, I'm not just gonna quit and binge eat pizza or cheeseburgers or anything like that. I'm going to stick with it, because the thought of those things made me sick at that time. So week 2 came and went, and I actually, in seeing the menu for week 3, I didn't feel as anxious as the previous time. I still felt confident, but to my surprise, I think every single week was really, really hard, but I think week 3 was deceptively very, very difficult, because it was like, oh, you're almost there, you should just quit early. But I was like, no, I'm committed to the 3-week thing. Like I want to see and track, like all the results. And so I did, but it was super hard, because it's like, oh, you're so close, you should just quit, a few days early or whatever. And so I was able to stick through it. I was able to continue on, and I'm super, super glad that I did. For me, in this whole journey, the cleanse, it's not a way that you should eat like for the rest of your life. It's meant to be a cleanse, and so I think that it's okay to eat things that aren't within those menus, for sure. I don't think it would necessarily be in most people's best interest to eat in such a way, or just a really boring way to eat, to be honest. But it did open my eyes to some new foods or some new meals that I can add into my my diet moving forward. I do notice a difference in the ways that I feel, because I am eating so much better. I was eating like trash before, eating whatever I wanted, and so by introducing more natural and healthy foods into my diet, I think it really opened my eyes that it's not boring or insufferable to eat in such a way, but it's okay. And I also think that moving forward, I hope to adopt that philosophy of moderation. My friends David and Laura, they say that their philosophy is to eat healthier in that first half of the day, but then when it comes to something like dinner, they might add in some other ingredients that maybe aren't considered healthy, but again, it's that moderation kind of thing. And so I think moving forward, that's something that I would like to do. Some of my friends told me that I should do, healthy eating, but then have a cheat day in the week. Maybe that's something that I'll try, but right now I don't feel like that's a possibility for me. This whole thing, you know, I do want to live a healthier lifestyle, but at the same time, for me, healthy isn't defined by a number on a scale. But I will say that I did weigh myself to kind of keep track and see some numerical results. But for me, the thing that I track the most, or what indicates to me that I'm on a better path, is just how do I feel? Do I feel good in the ways that I'm eating, or do I feel like garbage? Those kinds of indicators I think are more important to me than if I've lost a few pounds or not. But like I said, I did some tracking and I was super curious. So I'll put the numbers right here for you to see week to week what that looked like. And I was super interested to see those changes, because obviously I knew that I was going to be losing weight because I wasn't eating bread and cheese, which is like, you know, a staple in my diet. I got really into grilled cheeses during quarantine, but I knew that I was going to lose a lot of weight in that first week, and so I was not necessarily surprised by that number. I was, however, super curious to know what I would lose between week 1 and week 2, or week 2 to week 3, because I was eating kind of that normal stuff already, and so I anticipated that I would lose some weight just from that diet change, but still, I think I was a lot more surprised by that I would still lose that amount of weight each week, just by doing this. One of my goals that I told you that I totally failed at and stopped trying was I wanted to exercise almost every day. Totally didn't, and so this weight loss is really like, you know, obviously I did other kinds of exercise, not officially, but you know, walking around, and a lot of times I'm carrying like, you know, a big camera backpack full of gear, but I wasn't exercising. So the weight loss that you see is from the cleanse, from what I ate. And so I just think that's super interesting, but it's also on par with things that I've heard other people talk about. They say that you know, your body is sculpted in the kitchen, not in the gym. But yeah, so again, I don't hold value in these numbers, but I do think that they are numerical indicators. Again, I do feel better, but I think I will feel a lot better after the cleanse with some moderation and being able to enjoy some of the foods that I like to enjoy. If you know me, you know I am an incredibly indecisive person, but I will say that the cleanse clarified in my mind what my favorite foods are. And so I have learned that my favorite food is pizza. That's like the biggest thing that I was craving. And not just like any pizza, although all pizza is pretty good pizza in my book. Like I'll eat it probably. But like what I was craving was like super good, like good quality kind of pizza. And so I think that clarified for me that was that is my favorite food. But a close second is cheeseburgers. And again, not just like any Joe Schmo cheeseburger, but yeah, like I was really craving like a good cheeseburger. And there was obviously a ton of other cravings as well. Another thing that I gained clarity on was chicken is my favorite meat, and I think that's partially because it's so versatile. But yeah, so it was just kind of interesting thinking about some of those things. All in all, super glad that I did this cleanse, and it was meant to be my hard reset of 2020. But like I said, there's a lot of goals that I wanted to accomplish that I totally failed at. But who knows, maybe I'll start working on those next, now that I have a little bit more control over my diet and what I'm eating, and just start smaller than that. I knew I was being super ambitious and way too ambitious for somebody like me, but you know, go big or go home. And you know, when we fail, that just means that we have opportunity to learn and grow. And so lots for me to continue to learn and grow in. just as far as creating a healthy and sustainable lifestyle. But I think this was a really good step one. It forced me to use a lot of mental strength, and I think that will be something that is invaluable as I look towards accomplishing some other goals. So I just thought that I would share that with you. Yeah, that was my 21-day cleanse journey. It was good. Yeah, highly recommend.